surely we are going to bring a change. How? Let me talk about the pollution in the clothing industry. According to the Lensing Group, the world's textile consumption was about 95.6 million tons in 2015, and by 2019 it has grown again by around 30%. 62.1% of which were oil based synthetic fibers like polyester, uh, 25.2% cellulose and protein based fibers like cotton, 6.4% wood based cellulose fibers, 1.2% wool, and 1.5% other natural fibers. It is well known that the textile industry is a large consumer of water, energy, and chemicals required to produce fabric at several different stages of production. To produce fiber, about 2 trillion gallons of water and 145 million tons of coal are consumed. If you consider the environmental impact of coal as just one of the several energy sources in the textile industry, the harmful effects are enormous. Coal is also responsible for air and water pollution as well as land use and waste management issues. Through the various stages and processes of textile production, waste is produced and the environment is polluted. As such, the textile industry is responsible for producing different waste stream, including gaseous, liquid, and solid waste, most of which are quite hazardous. Let us see first what makes the textile industry one of the largest polluters. The textile industry, in terms of scale, output, and production, is one of the largest industry around the globe. The industry is a big contributor to the economic welfare of several economies around the world, owing to the fact that there is an insatiable demand for clothing as well as the need for garment to be produced at a lower cost. Again, I repeat, when you are demanding lower cost product, what you are demanding is someone there will be doing that low cost cloth at an arbitrarily, extremely, very dangerously, in a situation what they are not supposed to do, because if they have to give on labor, they have to be given good money, then your clothing cost will be up. Since the textile industry compromises of several different stages of production, pollution happens in many different ways depending on the process, level of technology used to produce fabric, the type of textile facility, the type of chemicals used, the fibers used, and so on. Now, if I talk about particularly water pollution, typically to produce 1 kg of fabric, 200 liters of water are consumed. That is because a lot of water is used throughout the fabric production processing, including washing in the fiber, bleaching, dyeing, and then cleaning the finished product. All this is separate from the fact that plants like cotton consume at least 5,000 gallons or 19,000 liters of water to produce just one t-shirt. In 2010, the China Environmental Statistical Yearbook cited that the Chinese textile industry produced 2.5 billion tons of waste water. The high volumes of water used and discarded in the fabric producing processes are responsible for aquatic life toxicity from sources including toxic organic chemicals, toxic anions, salts, ionic metals, and metal complexes, biocides, and surfactants. Talking about air pollution, gaseous emissions in the textile industry have been cited as the second largest pollution problem in the industry after water pollution, especially since most processes in textile production produce atmospheric emissions. Generally, there's very little data on air emissions in the textile industry since it is difficult to sample, test, and quantify air pollution in audits. Air pollution in the textile industry can be categorized into two main groups according to the nature of the source of pollution. First, diffusive sources includes solvent based pollution spills and wastewater treatment. And second, point sources including pollution from ovens, boilers and storage tank. When I talk about solid waste pollution, the textile industry also produces a lot of solid waste which ends up in landfills and water bodies, which can cause environmental issues. Globally, each year, about 90 million items of clothing end up in landfills. Some of the pollutants that end up in landfills include fiber lint, vegetable matter, waxes, dirt, and wool produced in wool fabrication processes, paper and paper sheets, scrap metals, oily rags, general domestic waste used and produced in domestic textile workshops, wasted and retained sludge in water wastewater treatment. When solid waste pollution ends up in landfill, over time it begins to let off methane into the environment, which directly contributes towards global warming. When solid waste pollution ends up in water bodies, it can pollute water bodies as well as kill marine life. This directly impacts animals as well as human beings who reside in the region. There are several ways that the amount of environmental degradation caused by the textile industry can be reined in through recycling and upcycling of fabrics. The only one way I am talking about is draping. If you buy less, but if you know how to drape one particular cloth into many different ways, it can bring about huge change in your wardrobe. And come on, let's cut down the fast fashion word and come into the weavers fashion word, where the weavers, you will buy directly buying from them whenever you need it, and buy something very specific, very elegant from the weavers, because that is the genuine product. They create a extremely less amount of pollution which the other textiles do. The need to produce more and more fabrics can be greatly reduced if you focus on particularly weaving, buying directly from the weavers. Additional measures to control pollution caused by the textile industry should also include clean textile production. And when I talk about clean textile production, I can only depend on the weavers.